Can you tell me who once owned a chain of luxury hotels named Centaur Hotels? Can you name one of the largest art collectors in India who owns these artworks? Can you tell me for whom did Salvador Dali design this limited edition ashtray? The answer is the original Maharaja of the skies, Air India. Air India is in the news due to its privatization. But did you know Air India was not always owned by the government of India? It was founded and headed by none other than J.R.D. Tata until 1978. Yes, this is the story of how life has come a full circle for Air India from Tatas to Tatas. So the story begins with a certain Louis Blériot. Have you ever come across this name? He was the first person to fly over the English Channel in 1909. But how is he connected to Air India? Let me tell you. In 1910s, Blériot built a beach house in France. And guess who were the next door neighbors? The Tatas. Then barely 15 years old, J.R.D. Tata experienced his first joyride on a plane at this place. Since that day, he became determined to be a pilot. And in 1929, J.R.D. did become the first Indian to be recognized as a licensed pilot. Guess what? J.R.D.'s sisters, Sila and Rodabe, were the first two women in India to get a flying license. How cool is that? Back then, commercial aviation was not yet a thing in India. J.R.D. used to fly as an aviation enthusiast by giving joyrides to his friends. Now enters Neville Vincent, an aviation enthusiast all the way from South Africa. Neville aspired to build a career in aviation. That's when he heard that the Imperial Airways was planning an airmail service from London to Karachi. He realized that the flight would go from Karachi to Kolkata and then to Australia, but peninsular India would be left out. Vincent then came up with a proposal to connect Karachi to Bombay and then further down to Madras. He approached a few wealthy Parsi businessmen who were not up for it. Why didn't he just go to the Tatas, you ask? He thought they were too big a conglomerate for a small project like this. One day, he finally met J.R.D. Tata and J.R.D. took the proposal to the then Tata Sons chief, Dorabji Tata. The project was approved with a meager initial investment of 2 lakh rupees. Adjusted to inflation, that amount is today equal to 5 crore rupees. That is still a small amount to start an airline. Tatas immediately approached the government to get a license to start an airmail service from Karachi to Bombay and further down. The imperial government finally gave the approval in 1932 with several restrictions. In October 1932, the first ever Tata Airlines plane piloted by J.R.D. himself took off from the airport in Karachi with a load of mails. The plane landed at Ahmedabad to be refueled. And did you know, the 4 gallons of petrol for the aircraft, yes, it was petrol back then, it was carried on in a bullock cart towards the aircraft. Isn't it amazing how much the aviation industry evolved in just a matter of few decades? The plane took off from Ahmedabad to land on the Juhu beach sands of Bombay. You heard it right. Beaches served as runways in the initial days. And during the high tide, they used to shift the base to Pune, just beside Erawada jail. After a year of operation, Tata Sons made a profit of 10,000 rupees from the airmail service. Captain V. Vishwanath, who had just joined the airlines, wondered why this man J.R.D. is taking such mammoth efforts for such a small and insignificant business. Those were the days when pilots themselves, including J.R.D. Tata, had to carry a load of mail into the plane and fly all alone in the skies without any navigational or radio support. They were kind of postmen in the sky. But what Captain Vishwanath then couldn't see was the vision behind J.R.D.'s hard work. By 1938, the airlines was making a profit of 6 lakh rupees, and there was steady growth in passenger traffic with the introduction of bigger aircrafts. But we all know what happened the following year, the Second World War. The government took over civil aviation operations. Airlines were given many special assignments. During the period of war, J.R.D. prepared the organization to go international once it all ended. The airline was renamed Air India in 1946 and the proposal was sent to the newly formed Independent Government of India in 1947 to set up a joint international airline. Surprisingly, the government accepted the proposal in just 2 weeks. The government agreed to have 49% of stake in the international airline. 25% was held by the Tatas and the rest by the public. Malabar Princess, the first Air India international flight from Bombay to London, took off on 8th of June 1948. That was the first ever flight by an Asian airline connecting east to west. During the time when Indian princes were losing privileges, the great Maharaja started scaling new heights in the high skies. And for your information, the famous benevolent Maharaja mascot was created by the then commercial director of Air India and an artist named Umesh Rao in 1946. J.R.D. Tata knew that his airline couldn't compete with the well-established international airlines, but he made sure that his airline's maintenance and equipment were second to none. But how did the Tatas fall out of this equation? At the end of Second World War, hundreds of Dakota planes were left behind in India by the American troops. These planes were sold to the interested bidders who refurbished them to launch their own aviation ventures. Just like how too many cooks spoil the broth, too many airlines with meager domestic traffic had messed up the finances of many companies, and some had even liquidated. The government then decided to nationalize all the existing airlines in 1952. It was not just the profitably running Air India and Air India International, but also 7 other companies were merged and nationalized. Following this development, only 2 airline companies existed in India: Indian Airlines for domestic purposes and Air India International for international operations. J.R.D. Tata was requested to head the international wing, which he readily accepted. He served as the chairman until 1978, when he was unceremoniously sacked by the Morarji Desai government. Later, the liberalization era and the entry of new private airlines certainly did put pressure on the monopoly of Air India. But it was not until 2007 when the operations of Air India and Indian Airlines were merged into a single entity, the company turned a white elephant. Can you imagine? In 13 years between 2007 and 2020, the company accumulated losses of 71,000 crores. Jump to 2017, the government approved the privatization of Air India and invited interested bidders. The long bidding process went on till 2021, and now you know who's back in the game. Air India is back with the Tatas again. Though it looks like life came a full circle for Air India, the story is far from over. In fact, this is only a new beginning. Will the Tatas be able to restore the lost glory of Maharaja is the million-dollar question only time can answer. Maybe that'll be the stuff for another video years from now. If you know any further facts on Air India, please do let us know in the comment section. Now you know the drill. Like, share and subscribe and hit the bell icon for updates on our latest videos.